In the last episode, our group was left reeling from the aftermath of a grueling trial, our resolve tested and our bonds strained. The weight of our past struggles hung heavy, yet in that darkness, a spark of determination flickered to life. It was then that a mysterious message arrived, bearing news of a hidden city deep within Aetheria's underworld, where an ancient artifact might hold the key to understanding the Archon's true intentions. I stood at the edge of our makeshift camp, gazing out into the flickering flames, my mind reeling with the implications. The message was from an unknown ally within the Order of the Eternal Vigil, a cryptic note scrawled on a piece of worn parchment. As I read the words, a shiver ran down my spine. This could be the break we needed, the chance to turn the tide against the Archon and his darkness. My companions gathered around, their faces illuminated by the firelight, their eyes filled with a mix of hope and trepidation. Elara's gaze was distant, her connection to Aetheria's fabric still reeling from the last trial. Kael's specter stirred, his presence a cold draft on the back of my neck. We have to be careful, I thought, my eyes scanning the surrounding area, searching for any sign of danger. The journey ahead would be treacherous, navigating labyrinthine tunnels, avoiding deadly creatures, and infiltrating the Archon's strongholds. But we had no choice. The stakes were too high, the potential reward too great. With a deep breath, I tucked the parchment into my belt and turned to my companions. It's time to move. We have a city to find. The darkness seemed to swallow us whole as we set out, the silence oppressive, punctuated only by the sound of our footsteps echoing off the walls. Every step took us deeper into the unknown, the air thickening with an almost palpable sense of foreboding. And then, without warning, Elara stopped, her head cocked to one side. "What is it?" I mouthed, my hand on the hilt of my sword. Her eyes locked onto mine, a flicker of fear dancing in their depths. I sensed something, a presence. Kael's specter stirred, his malevolent energy surging like a cold wind. Elara's face went pale, her voice barely audible. "It's him." Kael's back. The air seemed to grow colder, the shadows deepening into dark, malevolent forces that sought to consume us. My heart sank, my grip on my sword tightening. We're not alone. The silence that followed was oppressive, heavy with anticipation. And then a figure emerged from the darkness, its eyes fixed on us with an unnerving intensity. My instinct screamed at me to draw my sword, but I hesitated, sensing that this encounter might be more complex than a simple fight. The figure took a step closer, its features still indistinct in the flickering light. Elara's hand on my arm stayed me, her voice low and urgent. "Wait." The figure halted, its gaze flicking between us before coming to rest on Elara. In that moment, I felt a jolt of surprise. This wasn't an enemy, not yet at least. A low, gravelly voice spoke, the words sending a shiver down my spine. "You're the ones. I've been searching for you." The darkness seemed to close in around us, the air thick with anticipation. And I knew, in that moment, that our journey had just taken a dramatic turn, one that would propel us toward a destiny we could hardly begin to imagine. Previously, Elara had sensed a presence, Kael's vengeful specter stirring once more, and a mysterious figure emerged from the darkness, its eyes fixed on them with unnerving intensity. The figure, not an immediate enemy, spoke in a low, gravelly voice, claiming to have been searching for them. Elara's hand on my arm stayed me from drawing my sword as the air thickened with anticipation. As the figure took another step closer, its features slowly came into focus. The flickering flames danced across its face, revealing a rugged, weathered complexion and eyes that seemed to hold a deep wisdom. I could sense a mix of weariness and determination etched on its face, like the lines on a well-worn map. The figure's gaze lingered on Elara, and I could sense a strange connection forming between them. "You're the one," it said, its voice a little softer now. "The Aetheria sensitive. I've been searching for you and the others." Elara's grip on my arm relaxed, and she took a step forward, her eyes locked onto the figure. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice firm but cautious. The figure nodded, as if expecting the question. "My name is Aaron. I've been a member of the Order of the Eternal Vigil for a long time. I've been watching you, Alex, and your companions. I know about the trials and the relic." My instinct still urged caution, but there was something about Aaron's words that resonated with me. "What do you know about the relic?" I asked, my voice a little softer now. Aaron's eyes seemed to cloud over, and for a moment I thought I saw a glimmer of sorrow. "I know that it's more than just a simple artifact. It's a key, a gateway to understanding the true nature of Aetheria and the Archon's plans." Aaron's voice dropped to a whisper. "But you're not the only one searching for it. The Archon's agents are closing in, and they will stop at nothing to claim it for themselves." As Aaron spoke, Kael's specter grew more agitated, its malevolent energy swirling around us like a cold storm. Elara's eyes flashed with a mix of fear and determination. She knew that she had to balance her connection to Aetheria's fabric and contain Kael's vengeful presence. The air seemed to vibrate with tension now, the stakes escalating by the minute. I knew that we had to make a decision, and fast. Trusting Aaron could be a gamble, but the potential reward was too great to ignore. I looked at my companions, seeing the mix of emotions on their faces. We had come too far to turn back now. "Let's hear more," I said, my voice firm. "What do you propose we do, Aaron?" Aaron's face set in a determined expression. "I can take you to the hidden city, but it won't be easy. We'll have to navigate treacherous tunnels, avoid deadly creatures, and fight off the Archon's agents. Are you prepared to take that risk?" The question hung in the air, a challenge to our resolve. I glanced at my companions, seeing the fire in their eyes. We had come too far to back down now. "We're in," I said, my voice firm. "Let's do this." As we set out with Aaron, the darkness seemed to press in around us, the shadows deepening into menacing forces that sought to consume us. But with every step, I felt a sense of determination growing within me. We were in this together, and we would see it through to the end. The journey was grueling, the tunnels twisting and turning through the underworld like a serpent. We encountered strange creatures, their bodies adapted to the dark environment, and fought off the Archon's agents, who seemed to be everywhere. But with Aaron's guidance, we managed to evade them, using hidden passages and secret doors to stay one step ahead. Elara struggled to contain Kael's specter, but with each passing moment, she seemed to grow stronger, her connection to Aetheria's fabric deepening. As we walked, Aaron told us more about the hidden city and the ancient artifact. "It's a relic of the old world," he said, "a time when Aetheria was still a vibrant, thriving planet. The artifact holds the key to understanding the true nature of Aetheria and the Archon's plans." The journey was long and arduous, but finally we saw a glimmer of light in the distance. The hidden city rose before us, its structures a mix of ancient ruins and newer, makeshift buildings. The air was thick with an otherworldly energy, and I could feel the weight of history bearing down on me. As we entered the city, we were met with a mix of curiosity and suspicion. The inhabitants, a mix of humans and Aetherians, eyed us warily, unsure of what to make of us. Aaron introduced us, explaining our quest and our connection to the relic. The inhabitants, it seemed, had been waiting for us, their leader, a wise and aged Aetherian named Elara, stepping forward to greet us. "We've been expecting you," Elara said, her voice warm and welcoming. "We've been guarding the artifact for centuries, waiting for the right people to come and claim it." As Elara led us deeper into the city, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. The Archon's agents were out there, waiting for their chance to strike, but for now, we had a chance to rest, to regroup, and to prepare for the challenges ahead. As I looked at my companions, I saw a sense of hope and determination in their eyes. We were in this together, and we would see it through to the end. In that moment, I realized that our journey was not just about claiming the artifact, but about forging a new path forward, one that would bring light to a world that had been shrouded in darkness for far too long. The city, it seemed, held more secrets than just the artifact. As we explored its winding streets and ancient buildings, I began to sense that our journey was just beginning, that the true challenges lay ahead, and that our bond would be tested like never before. But for now, we had a chance to breathe, to regroup, and to prepare for the trials that lay ahead. And as I looked at my companions, I knew that we would face whatever came next, together, as a team, and with a newfound sense of hope and determination. As the darkness closed in around us, I knew that we would find a way to overcome it, to forge a brighter future, and to unlock the secrets of Aetheria. The journey ahead would be perilous, but with my companions by my side, I felt a sense of optimism that I had not felt in a long time. The city, with all its secrets and mysteries, lay before us, a challenge and an opportunity. And as we stepped forward into the unknown, I knew that our destiny was waiting and that we would face it together. Previously, Elara's connection to Aetheria's fabric was stretched to the limit as Kael's vengeful specter stirred, its malevolent energy swirling around them. A mysterious figure, Aaron, emerged from the darkness, claiming to be a member of the Order of the Eternal Vigil, and revealed that he had been searching for them. Aaron offered to take them to a hidden city deep within Aetheria's underworld, where an ancient artifact held the key to understanding the relic and the Archon's true intentions. As we stepped into the hidden city, the air thick with an otherworldly energy enveloped us, and I could feel the weight of history bearing down on me. The inhabitants, a mix of humans and Aetherians, eyed us warily, unsure of what to make of us. Elara, their leader, greeted us warmly and began to reveal the secrets of the city. "The artifact is hidden within the heart of Aetheria," Elara said, her eyes gleaming with a deep wisdom. "A sacred site where the ancient Aetherians once connected with the planet's energy. But be warned, the path ahead will be treacherous. The Archon's agents are closing in, and the city itself holds dangers that only the bravest and most resourceful can overcome." As Elara spoke, I noticed a young Aetherian watching us from the shadows. Her eyes seemed to hold a deep curiosity, and I sensed that she might be a valuable ally. Elara introduced her as Aria, a skilled archaeologist and expert on the ancient Aetherians. Aria stepped forward, her eyes shining with excitement. "I've studied the ancient texts," she said. "I can help you navigate the heart of Aetheria and unlock the secrets of the artifact." Elara's grip on my arm tightened, her eyes flashing with a mix of fear and determination. She knew that she had to balance her connection to Aetheria's fabric and contain Kael's vengeful presence. I could sense the strain on her, and I knew that we had to find a way to help her control Kael's specter before it was too late. As we prepared to face the challenges ahead, Aaron approached me, his expression serious. "Alex, I need to tell you something," he said, his voice low. "The Archon's agents are closer than you think. We have to move quickly or risk being caught off guard." I nodded, my mind racing with the implications. We had to act fast, and I knew that our bond would be tested like never before. But I also knew that we had come too far to turn back now. With Aria's guidance, we set out towards the heart of Aetheria, navigating treacherous tunnels and avoiding deadly creatures. As we walked, Elara struggled to contain Kael's specter, but with each passing moment, she seemed to grow stronger, her connection to Aetheria's fabric deepening. The journey was long and arduous, but finally we saw a glimmer of light in the distance. The heart of Aetheria rose before us, its structures a mix of ancient ruins and newer, makeshift buildings. The air was thick with an otherworldly energy, and I could feel the weight of history bearing down on me. As we entered the heart, we were met with a mix of curiosity and suspicion. The ancient Aetherians had left behind a series of trials designed to test the worthiness of those who sought to claim the artifact. Arya explained that the trials would push us to our limits, testing our courage, resilience, and ingenuity. The first trial was a labyrinth of mirrors where we had to navigate through a maze of reflections and illusions. Elara's connection to Aetheria's fabric proved invaluable as she sensed the hidden patterns and paths. Arya's knowledge of the ancient Aetherians helped us decipher the clues, and Aaron's combat skills took down the creatures that lurked in the shadows. As we progressed through the trials, I realized that we were not just testing our physical abilities, but also our emotional resilience. Kael's specter grew more agitated, its malevolent energy swirling around us like a cold storm. Elara's eyes flashed with a mix of fear and determination, but she refused to back down. The trials were a crucible, testing our bond and our resolve. But with each challenge overcome, our unity grew stronger. We began to anticipate each other's moves, our movements becoming a fluid dance of trust and cooperation. Finally, we reached the artifact, a glowing crystal that pulsed with an otherworldly energy. As we approached, the air seemed to vibrate with tension, and I could feel the weight of history bearing down on me. Lyra's voice echoed in my mind. The artifact holds the key to understanding the true nature of Aetheria and the Archon's plans. But be warned, the knowledge comes at a cost, and you must be prepared to pay the price. I looked at my companions, seeing the mix of emotions on their faces. We had come too far to turn back now. "Let's do this," I said, my voice firm. As we reached out to claim the artifact, a blinding light enveloped us, and I felt a surge of energy course through my veins. The knowledge that flowed into my mind was overwhelming, a flood of visions and images that revealed the true nature of Aetheria and the Archon's plans. The Archon, once a brilliant scientist, had sought to harness Aetheria's energy to create a new source of power. But in his quest for knowledge, he had lost sight of the consequences, and his obsession had consumed him. The relic, it seemed, was a key to unlocking the secrets of Aetheria, but also a tool for the Archon to control the planet's energy. As the light faded, I saw my companions, their faces etched with a mix of awe and concern. We had uncovered a dark truth, but also a glimmer of hope. The artifact, it seemed, held the key to restoring balance to Aetheria, and we had to make sure that it did not fall into the wrong hands. But as we stood there, bathed in the glow of the artifact, I sensed a presence watching us from the shadows. The Archon's agents had found us, and they would stop at nothing to claim the artifact for themselves. "We have to leave now," I said, my voice firm. "We can't let them take the artifact." As we turned to flee, I saw Arya, the young Aetherian, standing frozen in fear. Her eyes were fixed on something behind us, and I turned to see a figure emerging from the shadows. It was Kael, his eyes blazing with a malevolent energy. "Elara," I said, my voice urgent, "we need to help you control Kael's specter. It's not going to be easy." Elara's eyes flashed with determination. "I can do it," she said. "I just need to focus." As Elara concentrated, the air around us seemed to vibrate with tension. Kael's specter grew more agitated, its energy swirling around us like a cold storm. But Elara stood firm, her connection to Aetheria's fabric deepening. Slowly, Kael's specter began to recede, its malevolent energy fading into the background. Elara's eyes gleamed with a newfound strength, and I knew that she had finally found a way to balance her connection to Aetheria's fabric and contain Kael's vengeful presence. As we made our way out of the heart of Aetheria, I realized that our journey was far from over. The Archon's agents were closing in, and we had to find a way to stop them. But for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of hope, a sense that we could overcome the challenges ahead and forge a brighter future for Aetheria. The journey ahead would be perilous, but with my companions by my side, I felt a sense of optimism that I had not felt in a long time. We had grown stronger, our bond forged in the fire of adversity. And as we stepped forward into the unknown, I knew that our destiny was waiting and that we would face it together. Previously, Elara had finally found a way to balance her connection to Aetheria's fabric and contain Kael's vengeful specter, her eyes gleaming with a newfound strength. As we made our way out of the heart of Aetheria, we were met with a shocking revelation. Aria, the young Aetherian, had been working secretly with the Archon's agents, and she had led us into a trap. The Archon's forces closed in, their numbers overwhelming, and we were forced to fight for our lives. The sound of clashing steel and the scent of smoke filled the air as we clashed with the Archon's agents. I could feel the weight of our situation bearing down on me, the stakes higher than ever before. Elara's connection to Aetheria's fabric surged, and she unleashed a blast of energy that sent our enemies flying. Aaron and I took advantage of the distraction to fight back, our movements a fluid dance of trust and cooperation. But as we fought, I couldn't shake off the feeling that we were in over our heads. The Archon's agents seemed endless, and their determination to capture us was unwavering. I knew that we had to come up with a new plan, and fast, or risk being overwhelmed. As we managed to fend off the initial attack, I noticed a group of Aetherians watching us from the shadows. They seemed to be waiting for something, and I sensed that they might be our only hope. I approached them, Elara and Aaron by my side, and introduced ourselves. "We mean no harm," I said, my voice firm. "We're on a mission to stop the Archon and restore balance to Aetheria. Can you help us?" The Aetherians exchanged hesitant glances, and one of them stepped forward. "We are the guardians of Aetheria," he said, his eyes gleaming with a deep wisdom. "We have been watching you, Alex. We know what you're trying to do, and we're willing to help you." The Guardians led us to a hidden underground bunker, a labyrinthine complex filled with ancient artifacts and strange technology. Their leader, a wise and aged Aetherian named Thorn, greeted us warmly. "We've been waiting for you, Alex," Thorn said, his eyes gleaming with a deep understanding. "We know about the artifact and its power. We can help you unlock its secrets and use it to stop the Archon." As Thorn spoke, I realized that the Guardians might hold the key to our survival. But I also sensed that there was more to their story, and I pressed Thorn for more information. "What do you know about the Archon?" I asked, my voice firm. Thorn's expression turned grave. The Archon was once a brilliant scientist, but his obsession with Aetheria's energy consumed him. He made a pact with a dark entity, a being from another realm, to gain the power to control the planet's energy. But the entity had its own agenda, and the Archon's actions have awakened a terrible evil. I felt a chill run down my spine as Thorn spoke. The stakes had just gotten a lot higher. The Guardians began to reveal their plan to help us, and I listened intently. They had developed a technology that could disrupt the Archon's control over Aetheria's energy, but it required a specific crystal, one that was hidden deep within the Archon's stronghold. "We need to move quickly," Thorn said, his eyes urgent. "The Archon's agents are closing in, and we don't have much time." As we prepared to embark on our new mission, Elara approached me, her eyes shining with a mix of fear and determination. "I'm ready, Alex," she said, her voice firm. "I've found a way to control Kael's specter. I'm not going to let it consume me." I nodded, my heart filled with pride and admiration. We had come a long way, and I knew that our bond would see us through the challenges ahead. With the Guardian's help, we set out towards the Archon's stronghold, determined to stop him and restore balance to Aetheria. The journey was fraught with danger, but I knew that we had finally found a glimmer of hope. We had grown stronger, our bond forged in the fire of adversity. And as we stepped forward into the unknown, I knew that our destiny was waiting and that we would face it together. As we approached the Archon's stronghold, I could feel the air thickening with tension. The crystal we needed was hidden deep within the fortress, and I knew that we would have to overcome countless obstacles to get it. But I was ready. I was ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that my companions stood by me. And as we charged forward into the heart of the Archon's stronghold, I knew that our future was about to be decided. The battle ahead would be fierce, but I was no longer afraid. I had Elara, Aaron, and the Guardians by my side, and together we would forge a brighter future for Aetheria. The darkness closing in around us seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy, and I could feel the weight of history bearing down on me. But I was no longer intimidated. I was ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that our bond would see us through. As we entered the stronghold, we were met with a maze of corridors and chambers, each one filled with deadly traps and treacherous obstacles. But with the Guardian's guidance and our own growing skills, we navigated the fortress with ease. Finally, we reached the chamber where the crystal was hidden. It glowed with an intense light, and I could feel its power coursing through my veins. But as we reached out to claim the crystal, the Archon himself emerged from the shadows, his eyes blazing with a malevolent energy. "You fools," he spat, his voice dripping with contempt. "You think you can stop me? I have the power of Aetheria at my command." I stood tall, my companions by my side. "We're not going to let you control Aetheria," I said, my voice firm. "We're going to stop you, no matter what it takes." The Archon sneered, but I could see a glimmer of doubt in his eyes. He knew that we were not to be underestimated. The battle ahead would be fierce, but I was ready. I was ready to face the Archon and to determine the fate of Aetheria. And as we charged forward into the heart of the fortress, I knew that our destiny was waiting and that we would face it together. Previously, Elara's newfound strength had allowed her to contain Kael's vengeful specter, and we had just discovered Aria's shocking betrayal, which had led us into a trap set by the Archon's agents. As we fought for our lives, Elara's connection to Aetheria's fabric surged, and she unleashed a blast of energy that sent our enemies flying. But just as we thought we'd escaped the worst of it, the Archon's forces closed in, their overwhelming numbers threatening to crush us. As we caught our breath, I couldn't shake off the feeling that we were being watched. I scanned our surroundings, and that's when I saw him, a figure emerging from the shadows, his eyes fixed intently on us. He was tall, with piercing blue eyes that seemed to see right through me. "Who are you?" I asked, my hand on the hilt of my sword. The figure stepped forward, a small smile playing on his lips. "I am Lyrian," he said, his voice low and smooth. "And I have information that could change the course of your journey." I narrowed my eyes, unsure if I could trust this stranger. But there was something about Lyrian that seemed different, something that made me want to listen. "What do you know?" I asked, my curiosity piqued. Lyrian's smile grew wider. "I know where the artifact is," he said, his eyes glinting with a hint of mischief. "And I know how to get you there, past the Archon's defenses and into the heart of his stronghold." Elara's eyes narrowed. "What's in it for you?" she asked, her voice cautious. Lyrian's expression turned serious. "I have my reasons for wanting to see." "The Archon defeated," he said, his voice low and intense. "Reasons that go beyond mere altruism. But I assure you, I am on your side, for now at least." I hesitated, unsure if I could trust Lyrian. But something about him seemed genuine, and I decided to take a chance. "Okay," I said, my voice firm. "We'll listen to what you have to say, but if you're trying to trick us, you'll regret it." Lyrian nodded, a small smile playing on his lips. "I'm not trying to trick you," he said. "I'm trying to help. Follow me." With that, Lyrian turned and led us through the winding corridors of the stronghold, avoiding deadly traps and patrols with ease. As we moved deeper into the fortress, I could feel the air growing thick with an otherworldly energy. Finally, we reached a large stone door, adorned with intricate carvings and symbols. Lyrian produced a small key and unlocked the door, revealing a chamber filled with ancient artifacts and strange technology. In the center of the room, on a pedestal of black stone, lay the artifact. It glowed with an intense light, and I could feel its power coursing through my veins. But as we approached the pedestal, a voice echoed through the chamber, cold and menacing. "Welcome, Alex," the Archon said, his voice dripping with contempt. "I've been expecting you. You'll never leave this place alive." I turned to face him, my companions by my side. The Archon stood on the far side of the room, his eyes blazing with a malevolent energy. "It's time to end this," I said, my voice firm. The Archon sneered. "You're no match for me," he said. "I have the power of Aetheria at my command," but I was not intimidated. I knew that we had come too far to turn back now. With a fierce cry, we charged forward, determined to stop the Archon and claim the artifact. The battle ahead would be fierce, but I was ready. I was ready to face the Archon and to determine the fate of Aetheria. And as we clashed, our movements a fluid dance of trust and cooperation, I knew that our destiny was waiting and that we would face it together. As the fight raged on, I noticed that the Archon seemed to be weakening. His control over Aetheria's energy was faltering, and I sensed that we were gaining the upper hand. But just as we thought we had the upper hand, a dark energy surged through the room, threatening to overwhelm us. Kael's specter emerged, its presence menacing and oppressive. Elara's eyes locked onto the specter, her face set in a determined expression. "I've got this," she said, her voice firm. With a surge of energy, Elara confronted Kael's specter, her connection to Aetheria's fabric pulsing with a newfound strength. The two energies clashed, the outcome hanging in the balance. As I watched, a sense of pride and admiration swelled in my chest. Elara was growing stronger, her control over her abilities increasing by the minute. And with her by my side, I knew that we could overcome anything. The battle raged on, the four of us fighting in perfect sync. Aaron took down the Archon's agents, while Lyrian worked his magic on the ancient technology, disabling the stronghold's defenses. And then, in a flash of insight, I saw it, the key to defeating the Archon and shattering his hold on Aetheria. "Aaron, can you hack into the stronghold's mainframe?" I asked, my voice urgent. Aaron nodded, his eyes lighting up with excitement. "I'm on it," he said. With Aaron's help, we managed to access the mainframe and disable the Archon's control over Aetheria's energy. The planet's energy began to stabilize, and the Archon's powers began to wane. The Archon let out a defeated cry as his control slipped away. He stumbled backwards, his eyes wide with shock and despair. And in that moment, I felt a sense of hope and renewal. We had done it. We had saved Aetheria. But as we stood victorious, I couldn't shake off the feeling that there was still more to come. The Archon's defeat was just the beginning. There were still those who would seek to exploit Aetheria's power, and we would have to remain vigilant. As we caught our breath, Lyrian approached me, a serious expression on his face. "Therese, something you need to know, Alex," he said, his voice low and urgent. "The entity that the Archon made a pact with, it's still out there, and it's not going to be happy about its host's defeat." I felt a chill run down my spine as Lyrian spoke. The stakes had just gotten a lot higher, but I was ready. I was ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that my companion stood by me. And as we stepped forward into the unknown, I knew that our destiny was waiting and that we would face it together. Previously, Elara's confrontation with Kael's specter had ended with her emerging victorious, and we had just disabled the Archon's control over Aetheria's energy, sending his powers into a tailspin. But as we basked in the glow of our hard-won victory, Lyrian's ominous warning hung in the air like a challenge. The entity that the Archon had made a pact with was still out there, waiting to strike. As we stood there, bathed in the warm glow of our triumph, I couldn't shake off the feeling that our journey was far from over. The Archon's defeat had been a milestone, but it had also raised more questions than it had answered. What was the true nature of the entity that the Archon had made a pact with, and what did it want? Lyrian's expression turned grim, his eyes clouding over with a mixture of concern and determination. "We need to get out of here, now," he said, his voice low and urgent. "The Archon's defeat will not go unnoticed, and we don't have much time before his allies regroup and come after us." I nodded, my mind racing with the implications of Lyrian's words. We had to move, and fast. But as we turned to leave, I noticed something strange. The artifact on the pedestal was glowing brighter now, its energy pulsing with an otherworldly power. "What's happening to the artifact?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Lyrian's eyes locked onto the artifact, his expression intense. "It's reacting to the Archon's defeat," he said. "The artifact is a key part of the Archon's plan, and now that he's been defeated, it's trying to find a new host." Elara's eyes widened, her face pale. "What does that mean?" she asked, her voice trembling. Lyrian's expression was grim. "It means that the artifact is going to try to bond with one of us," he said. "And if it does, it could change everything." I felt a shiver run down my spine as Lyrian spoke. We had just defeated the Archon, but now we faced a new challenge, one that could potentially tear us apart. As we stood there, frozen in uncertainty, the artifact began to glow even brighter, its energy surging through the room. I could feel its power calling to me, tempting me with promises of limitless strength and control. But I wasn't the only one who felt its pull. Elara's eyes were fixed on the artifact, her expression torn between fascination and fear. And Aaron, usually the most skeptical of our group, seemed entranced by the artifact's power. Lyrian's voice cut through the silence, his words urgent. "We need to get out of here now! We can't let the artifact bond with any of us." But it was too late. The artifact had already made its choice. With a burst of energy, it launched itself at Elara, its power surging through her like a tidal wave. "Elara, no!" I shouted, but it was too late. The artifact's energy enveloped Elara, and she let out a cry of pain and wonder. Her body began to glow with an intense light, and I could feel her connection to Aetheria's fabric surging to new heights. As I watched, a mix of emotions swirled inside me, concern for Elara, fear of the unknown, and a sense of awe at the sheer power of the artifact. But I knew that I had to trust in Elara and in our bond as companions. The next few moments were a blur of chaos and confusion. The room seemed to spin around me, and I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. But then, suddenly, the light faded, and Elara stood before us, her eyes shining with a newfound intensity. She looked different somehow, stronger, more confident, and as she smiled at me, I knew that she was still Elara, still my friend and companion. But as we stood there, catching our breath and trying to make sense of what had just happened, I couldn't shake off the feeling that our journey had just taken a dramatic turn. The artifact's power coursed through Elara's veins now, and I had no idea what that meant for our future. As we made our way out of the stronghold, avoiding the Archon's agents and making our way back to the safety of the underground tunnels, I couldn't help but feel a sense of hope and excitement. We had faced down the Archon and emerged victorious. And now, with Elara's newfound powers and Lyrian's guidance, I knew that we were ready for whatever lay ahead. But as we walked, I noticed that Elara seemed different. Her eyes seemed to hold a newfound depth, a newfound understanding, and her smile seemed to hold a hint of mischief, a hint of adventure. "Hey," I said, falling back to walk beside her. "Are you okay?" Elara turned to me, her eyes sparkling with a newfound intensity. "I'm more than okay," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm ready." Ready for what? I wondered. But as I looked into her eyes, I knew that I didn't need to know. Whatever lay ahead, I knew that we would face it together, as companions, as friends. As we emerged from the tunnels and into the bright sunlight, I felt a sense of hope and renewal wash over me. We had saved Aetheria, and we had saved each other. And as we walked forward into the unknown, I knew that our destiny was waiting and that we would face it together. The city of Aetheria's underworld, Elara, sprawled out before us, its towering spires and crystal palaces glinting in the sunlight. We had a long journey ahead of us, but I knew that we were ready. With Elara's newfound powers and Lyrian's guidance, I knew that we could overcome anything. And as we set out into the unknown, I felt a sense of excitement and anticipation building inside me. What lay ahead, I wondered, but one thing was for sure: we would face it together, as companions, as friends, and that was all that mattered. The journey ahead would be long and fraught with danger, but I was ready. I was ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that my companions stood by me. As we walked, the city of Elara unfolding before us like a map, I knew that our destiny was waiting, and I knew that we would face it together as one. The days passed, and our journey through Elara was filled with countless wonders and dangers. We navigated through markets filled with exotic goods and strange creatures, and battled against fearsome monsters and rival factions. But through it all, Elara's powers grew stronger, her connection to Aetheria's fabric deepening with each passing day. And as we journeyed on, I could sense a change in her, a growth that went beyond mere power. She was becoming more confident, more self-assured. And as we faced down challenges and obstacles, I knew that she was ready to face whatever lay ahead, with me by her side. As we explored the city, we stumbled upon a group of rebels fighting against the remnants of the Archon's forces. They were a ragtag group, but they had a fire in their eyes that I admired. We joined forces with them, and together we launched a series of daring raids against the Archon's strongholds. We fought bravely, and our victories were swift and decisive. And as we stood victorious, I knew that our journey was far from over. We had saved Aetheria, but there were still those who would seek to exploit its power. But I was ready. I was ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that my companions stood by me. And as we stood together, united in our quest for justice and freedom, I knew that our destiny was waiting. And I knew that we would face it together as one. The journey ahead would be long and fraught with danger, but I was ready. I was ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that my companions stood by me. And as we walked, the city of Elara unfolding before us like a map, I knew that our destiny was waiting, and I knew that we would face it together as one. But little did we know, a new threat was emerging, one that would test our strength, our courage, and our resolve. The entity that the Archon had made a pact with was stirring, its power growing by the day, and as we stood together, ready to face whatever lay ahead, I knew that our journey was far from over. The real challenge was only just beginning, and I was ready. With my companions by my side, I knew that we could overcome anything. And as we walked forward into the unknown, I knew that our destiny was waiting and that we would face it together. The city of Elara, with all its wonders and dangers, lay before us. And I knew that we would face it together, as one. As we journeyed on, the stakes grew higher and the challenges more daunting, but I was ready. I was ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that my companions stood by me. And as we stood together, united in our quest for justice and freedom, I knew that our destiny was waiting. And I knew that we would face it together as one. The journey ahead would be long and fraught with danger, but I was ready. I was ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that my companions stood by me. And as we walked, the city of Elara unfolding before us like a map, I knew that our destiny was waiting. And I knew that we would face it together as one. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: we would face it together as companions, as friends, and that was all that mattered. The entity that the Archon had made a pact with was still out there, waiting to strike. But I was ready. I was ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that my companions stood by me. And as we walked forward into the unknown, I knew that our destiny was waiting and that we would face it together. The battle ahead would be fierce, but I was ready. I was ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that my companions stood by me. And as we stood together, united in our quest for justice and freedom, I knew that our destiny was waiting. And I knew that we would face it together as one. The journey ahead would be long and fraught with danger, but I was ready. I was ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that my companions stood by me. And as we walked, the city of Elara unfolding before us like a map, I knew that our destiny was waiting. And I knew that we would face it together, as one. But for now, we had a new mission: to stop the entity that the Archon had made a pact with, and to save Aetheria from its wrath. And I knew that we would face it together, as one. The battle ahead would be fierce, but I was ready. I was ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that my companions stood by me. And as we stood together, united in our quest for justice and freedom, I knew that our destiny was waiting, and I knew that we would face it together, as one. The journey ahead would be long and fraught with danger, but I was ready. I was ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that my companions stood by me. And as we walked, the city of Elara unfolding before us like a map, I knew that our destiny was waiting, and I knew that we would face it together, as one. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: we would face it together, as companions, as friends, and that was all that mattered. As we journeyed on, the stakes grew higher and the challenges more daunting. But I was ready. I was ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that my companions stood by me. And as we stood together, united in our quest for justice and freedom, I knew that our destiny was waiting, and I knew that we would face it together, as one. The entity that the Archon had made a pact with was still out there, waiting to strike. But I was ready. I was ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that my companions stood by me. And as we walked forward into the unknown, I knew that our destiny was waiting and that we would face it together. The battle ahead would be fierce, but I was ready. I was ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that my companions stood by me. And as we stood together, united in our quest for justice and freedom, I knew that our destiny was waiting. And I knew that we would face it together, as one. The journey ahead would be long and fraught with danger, but I was ready. I was ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that my companions stood by me. And as we walked, the city of Elara unfolding before us like a map, I knew that our destiny was waiting. And I knew that we would face it together, as one. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: we would face it together, as companions, as friends, and that was all that mattered. The city of Elara, with all its wonders and dangers, lay before us, and I knew that we would face it together, as one. As we journeyed on, the stakes grew higher and the challenges more daunting. But I was ready. I was ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that my companions stood by me. And as we stood together, united in our quest for justice and freedom, I knew that our destiny was waiting, and I knew that we would face it together, as one. The journey ahead would be long and fraught with danger, but I was ready. I was ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that my companions stood by me. And as we walked, the city of Elara unfolding before us like a map, I knew that our destiny was waiting, and I knew that we would face it together, as one. But little did we know, our greatest challenge was yet to come. The entity that the Archon had made a pact with was stirring, its power growing by the day. And as we stood together, ready to face whatever lay ahead, I knew that our journey was far from over. The real challenge was only just beginning, and I was ready. With my companions by my side, I knew that we could overcome anything, and as we walked forward into the unknown, I knew that our destiny was waiting and that we would face it together,